I've been spending an awful lot of time recently going back over the years I've been doing this job and spotting the opinion-based positions that I got very, very wrong. And I used to think, this is amazing. This isn't in the top secret project that I'm not allowed to mention to you yet, but will be published on October the 22nd in all good bookshops. I didn't include this because I'd forgotten. But I used to argue in favour of, I think, well, you forget if you're 20, 30 years younger than me. I think you forget what the post 9 September the 11th landscape looked like. And I say this very carefully because we are, of course, receiving reports of an explosion in Paris at the moment. That's all I know. The sense of fear. We were terrorised. It's magnificent that we didn't allow the people that wished us harm to terrorise us permanently. And of course, there's plenty of people on the far right in this country, in politics and the media, who are furious that we don't remain more terrorised by terrorists, by brown-skinned terrorists. Obviously, as we saw last night, the American presidential election, they're supremely relaxed about white-skinned terrorists, even to the point of Donald Trump appealing directly to violent white supremacists and signing them up in public on stage in America, which is a frankly astonishing state of affairs, even for people like me who've been describing it and predicting it for years. But I felt very keenly the sense of the government needing to be able to go through our metaphorical knicker drawer, sock drawer, in case we were planning to launch the kind of attack that we saw in London on July the 7th, and of course at the Manchester Arena. You know what I'm talking about. I don't need to give you chapter and verse. So I did sit here 10 years ago and say that if they want access to my emails, that's fine. I've got nothing to hide, right? And although that was true, I don't feel that way now, because what I've seen in Britain and America, of course, is very malevolent political forces rising to the top. And suddenly you realise the reason why you can't let governments go through your metaphorical sock drawer when they are not malevolent or malign and they don't wish you harm is that those laws and those rules will remain in place when a government gets to power, where government gets elected, that is disgusting and malevolent. Look me in the eye and tell me what Donald Trump wouldn't do to protect himself, even if it involved breaking laws, infringing liberty. We've got a government in this country that yesterday voted to free itself up to break laws that it only passed in January. It's incredible, to break international law. So that's why I changed my view on the wisdom, because I felt it was a self-protection. There's a quote that is often attributed to Voltaire, although I think it might be one of those ones that turns out on closer inspection not to be true. But it's something along the lines of the man who sacrifices his freedoms upon the altar of protection deserves neither. And that resonates with me now a lot more than it did back then, because back then I felt, and I worked this out actually this morning, I thought that my emails were somehow different from my physical communications. So if you're sitting there thinking, well, it's fine for the government to go through my email account, or it's fine for the government to check my social media, then you should also leave your door unlocked, or at least invite government officers in to go through all of your belongings, to rifle through your files, to go into your granddad's safe, to go and dig up the garden, to go into the shed and unlock that box that you've been wondering. Do you see what I mean? I had this generational disconnect between technological communications and what you might describe as physical communications. Older listeners aren't going to struggle with this, but we didn't have email. When I started on the Daily Express, we didn't have internet in the building. I had to go to a groovy magazine around the corner where some mates of mine worked to borrow the internet. This is unbelievable for people under the age of 30. We didn't have it. So when I had conversations on this programme about emails, I wasn't thinking of them in the same way that I now do. I now think of them as being exactly the same as letters. I wouldn't want the government to go through my mail any more than I'd want it to go through my house or my briefcase. And Emily is in Woking. Emily, what would you like to say?
So, oh God, where do I even begin? So I left my job as a customer services executive working for a wedding and party, like wholesale.
Okay.
And I was due to start a new job for like to be like a sales coordinator for like marketing and events products for like some big company names.
Okay.
And I decided to take 2 weeks off just to celebrate my birthday. And then I got a call from the recruitment agency to say that due to COVID-19, I had my job offer withdrawn. So I was literally unemployed. I'd left the company just as COVID-19 was about to hit. So then I was unemployed for about a week. I think I must have registered with about 20 recruitment agencies, just making constant calls. And I managed to work at a warehouse, picking and packing orders for 2 months. Then I worked as an administrator for 3 months, and then that was temporary. And now I'm doing like a data entry clerk for a month. So it's just like, I'm really frustrated because I never got the chance to see how my original dream job was going to go.
Emily, no. And I mean, 50% of me wants to cheer you to the rooftops for cracking on and knuckling down and all the things that make me sound like Norman Tebbit. And the other 50% of me wants to give you nothing but sympathy and a cup of tea because you got, I mean, everyone suffered since March, but you got absolutely kebabbed, didn't you?
No, absolutely. And the thing is, though, it's like I suffer with generalised anxiety disorder. So I feel like at the moment I'm having to learn to take each day as it comes because that's all you can do. But at the moment, I can't plan my life because I don't know what's around the corner. But all I know is that I've helped to get that inner strength in me to help me.
Which you need to knock on metaphorical doors. You need to have something quite steely inside you, anxiety notwithstanding, to do that, don't you? Some people find the prospect of doing that absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, I think since March, I think I've been about unemployed for about 5 whole days. But
that's incredible.
It's just the thing is, though, like I'm 28, I want to be able to settle down at some point, but obviously without a stable, permanent job, I can't do things like that at the moment. So, like, and my boyfriend's being made redundant at the end of the year. So, but like, it's just, but with
everyone's on hold, aren't they? And it's just a question of how much, how much afloatness you can muster, because no one's going to be sailing happily over the horizon. Everybody.
No, and the thing is, like, everyone. The way I look at it, we're all in the same storm. We're all facing the same storm, but we're all in different boats. Some people are facing redundancy. Some people are struggling to find a job.
Didn't I say that a couple of weeks ago? Are you nicking my line? I'm sure I said that a couple of weeks ago.
Do you know what? Like, I'm currently at my little temporary job at the moment. But it's very, very nice and chilled here. But I've only been listening to LBC for a good couple of days.
All right then. So I'll take that one, my lad. Your honour. I'm pretty sure I said that. It's all right. It's not the most sparkling of insights in the history of the world. But you're absolutely right. The problem is, and this is true in many areas, not just in employment areas, that most people, or many people, don't realise we're all in the same storm. They still think you can direct storms at your enemies while you get sunshine and sangria,
No, exactly. But all I want to say is to anyone who is struggling to find a job, don't give up, because, there's nothing worse than feeling defeated. So just, don't give up. If I can go from temp job to temp job, because I don't know, things might dry up for me, but all I know is that I'm just going to keep on grafting.
Dust yourself down, pick yourself up and start all over again. Emily, solid advice. And I'll give you a tiny bit of advice with regard to the generalised anxiety. I was talking to Ruby Wax yesterday for an episode of my forthcoming podcast. She's done a lot of work in this area, and her new book is and indeed her previous books may well provide you with some support and or guidance, because goodness knows it is in short supply. Let's go to Fleet in Hampshire. Kieran is there. Kieran, what can you tell us?
Morning, James.
Hello, mate.
Thank you for taking my call.
You're very welcome. What's going on?
Difficult time, really. I lost my job. I worked in catering. I was looking after call centres for quite a big insurance company, and we had 500 people working in Chesterfield on site, 300 in Portsmouth, and 150 in Whitstable. And
they all need feeding. They all need feeding. Then suddenly they're working from home. Am I right?
Overnight. The company took the right decision.
Yeah, of course.
And they just sent all the staff home, and then closed the canteens, and they're drip feeding people back in. But they've made myself and all my team unemployed, which was their, they had no choice. But at 51, a challenge to get back into catering in.
Of course it is.
Any real managerial role, so it's quite tough.
How are you getting on?
But I'm lucky. I feel really lucky and blessed, because I kind of saw it coming. I went to an agency and I got a job packing, so I'm packing stuff which will probably see me through past Christmas, it's photos and stickers that people order online, and it's great fun, but it's a little soul destroying in terms of my mind. But it's
I'm going to talk to you about that, but I'm going to do so with a promise that if I overstep the mark, or if we veer into territory you don't want to be led into, then you're in charge, all right? Because I think what you're describing is, I wish I could think of a better word than pride, but it's a diminishment of status, and we all can feel that quite keenly, can't we? And
that is so true.
Yes.
So I'm working with some great people, but it's so difficult for me to actually not be making decisions and kind of running to a clock and having a 10-minute break, and that's quite hard.
Yes, of course.
And I watch the difference, and I'm working a late shift, 2 till 10, so I don't see the wife very much at all.
No.
And it's difficult for her, and I watch her looking at me.
She loves you, mate. She doesn't love the job you had.
So true.
That's a really important thing to remember. She loves Kieran. She doesn't love the catering manager. She loves Kieran.
She worries about me so much.
Of course she worries about you. That's because she loves you so much, but she doesn't worry about your status, Kieran. She worries about you. Because of who you are, because of the man you are, the person and the husband that you are, not because of what it used to say on your business card.
So, yeah. So it's quite tough.
It's very tough.
I didn't think I'd get emotional, to be honest. I thought, well, it'll be business-like. It's come flooding over me the second I started.
Well, it's important to get it out, my friend. It's really, I mean, not necessarily on the radio every time you need to give it a vent. But it's funny, you know, talking about my late father earlier, I learnt this lesson about him the hard way, Kieran. I learnt what it's like to have too much tied up in your sense of status and your job, and it's not who you are. I think our generation is the last. I'm 2.5 years younger than you. Our generation might well be the last that defines itself by its role in society, that defines itself by what, for my money now, are the wrong things. You know, you have a woman in your life who cares so deeply about you. That's a bigger achievement than many billionaires will ever manage.
Absolutely. I wouldn't change it for the world.
There you go. There you go.
But, so, you know, I'm looking for, you know, another role in catering.
And you have to wait until things have calmed down, until those roles spring up.
Which might be a long while away.
It might be a long while away, but one thing you can say is that when people do return to their workplaces, they will need canteens again. They will need restaurants again. They will need on-site catering again. And you'll be there, ready and waiting to fill those gaps.
Yeah. And in the meantime, it's about making ends meet. And
yes.
It's the same for so many people I know. It's about just getting what you can get. But for me, it just means there's so many more people going for jobs, and the wages are being pressed down, and it's really financially quite difficult
I get that completely.
For people to make ends meet.
No, it is, and I mean, I wish I could say something other than it's going to get worse before it gets better. But you know, you're quite inspirational as well, Kieran, in your way, because people listening to this will recognise that even if you are suffering inside, and I make no apology for using that word, and nor should you. You know, it's a question of acknowledging the reality of our feelings. You are suffering inside, but you recognise the reality of your situation, and you're making the best of the hand you have currently been dealt. What optimism involves is faith in the knowledge that the dealer might chuck you a couple of aces next time round.
You never know.
You never know. Kieran, you look after yourself, all right?
Thank you.
Thank you.